Hello and welcome to this grammar lesson. In this video, we will be talking about verb tenses and specifically the simple tenses. In this series of videos, we will talk about simple tenses first today, and then another video will be talking about the progressive tenses, and yet a third video, the last one, would be dedicated to perfect tenses. All right, so let's get started. Um, at the beginning, I just want to highlight the importance of time. Why verb tenses? Why do we study them? Well, the point is time of an event or an action is very important to tell. So if you are writing, especially in writing, if you're writing something, it's very important for the reader to be able to tell which tense is this. Are we narrating something that happened in the past? Are we telling general facts? Are we talking about something that no longer exists? So we need to be aware of that. This is why verb tenses are very important. And from experience, I can tell that we actually need to refresh our memories with these because mistakes like that usually happen in our writing, in our essay writing specifically. All right, so let's get started. We're going to start, as I said, with the simple tenses, and I hope they will be as simple as they sound. There we go. The simple present tense is used to talk about habits that are often repeated, things that regularly happen every day, every week, repeated every year, every month. So something that is regularly happening. And we use words like often, seldom, sometimes, and never, and a lot more, of course, with this tense. We call these adverbs of frequency because they tell me how often this action happens. For example, if we say, she goes to work every day, notice every day. So I'm telling you that this action is repeated every single day. This is how often it is repeated. All right. And they always eat lunch together. Here, I'm telling you that this action of eating lunch together always happens. That means all the time. They don't even skip one time. This is what the sentence means. All right. One good thing about this tense, it's so simple that we use the base form of the verb. If you notice here, goes, eat. You know, we have forms of the verb, something like the base form, the ing form, the ed form, or the past tense form, and we have the past participle. This tense in particular uses the simplest form, the base form of the verb, the one that has no additions, the one that you can find in the dictionary, like eat, dance, go, play, whatever. Well, we only need to remember one thing here. So this is about subject-verb agreement. If the subject is singular, like in this sentence here, she, one person, singular, we need to add s or es to the verb, right? But if it is plural, like here, they, we don't add anything. We just keep the verb as it is: eat, dance, play, whatever, all right? This tense is also used to talk about general truths or general facts that are timeless. They are always true regardless of the conditions around them. Something like rain falls in December in Dubai. So we know that in December, January, and sometimes in Feb, it rains here in Dubai. So this is a fact. It's not only this year happening or last year. This is something that we all agree on, right? And the second sentence here, water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. This is a general fact, scientifically proven. So there's no argument here. We don't find people arguing like, no, Water actually boils at 80 degrees Celsius. We don't find people like that. It would be futile to argue with something like this. Um, if we say something like the sun rises in the morning, again, you don't find people arguing with this, right? Because this is just a general fact. It's true all the time. All right. So I hope so far so good. This is it for the simple present tense. Let's move on. And here is the simple past. This tense is used to indicate that something happened at a certain point in time in the past. And I want you to remember this. We specify at which point. So it's very important in this tense to indicate the accurate time of the event. Look at this example. I visited my sister yesterday. See the word yesterday? It tells me exactly when the event happened. It happened yesterday. Or we went out to dinner last night. Last night tells me when exactly the event happened. All right, so we need to be very specific. And please remember this because in the coming videos we would be referring back to this particular point. This is one of the ways that the simple past is different from another tense. We will talk about it when the time comes. All right. Simple past is also used to describe actions that are no longer true in the present, or they are completed and we don't do them anymore. Look at these examples. If I say something like this, I taught French in 1998. I taught French in 1998. This means I no longer teach French. The action is completed and it's no longer happening. Done. I saw a movie every weekend when I was a teenager. I saw a movie. That means I don't see movies anymore, or not that much, because look at the sentence. It says, I saw a movie every weekend. So that thing that was happening regularly until one point it stopped. So now I no longer do that. If you say something like, I loved video games, that means I don't love them anymore. All right, so we need to be very specific when we use this tense. All right, this is it for simple past. Let's move on. Let's go to the future. Let's go. In the future tense, for the structure of the tense, we use the word will. Will plus the verb. All right. Or there is another structure, which is a verb to be plus going plus to, and of course the verb. All right. So here we use this tense only to talk about actions that will happen in the future. All right. Let's have a look at some examples. Thomas will graduate in June. See, will graduate. And please notice here with will, we use again the base form of the verb. We don't add anything to it. All right. Will graduate, not anything else. Another sentence is this. Maria is going to travel to Mexico next week. Again, the structure is going to plus the verb. All right. Well, a logical question might come to your mind, which is, all right, we're talking about the future. Why do we have two structures then? Why don't we stick to one of them? Something like will all the time. Thomas will graduate, Maria will go or will travel to Mexico. Why do we have two structures? Well, that's a very logical question, and we have a very logical answer to it. In terms of grammar, will is used to indicate something that is that will happen in the future, that is expected to happen in the future. Look at the first sentence here, please. Thomas will graduate in June. We expect him to graduate at that time. However, we don't know what might happen. This is all in God's hands. maybe something, an emergency would happen and he will not graduate in June. Maybe his graduation will be postponed till September or maybe till next year. Who knows? Maybe he might be sick, a family member dies, any emergency might come his way, and he will not graduate. So, this is something we expect to happen. All right. However, if you compare that to this one, Maria is going to travel to Mexico. In this structure, be plus going to plus the verb, here there is a plan. All right. So Maria is planning to travel. She has made up her mind. She booked a ticket and she's traveling. All right. Again, you might tell me, well, an emergency might happen there. Well, I know, but at least Maria is prepared. She did her part. However, if you compare it to the first sentence, we are only expecting. Second sentence, Maria is planning. She booked a ticket. She's traveling to Mexico next week. Everything is set unless an emergency happens. All right. So I want you to imagine this. If you are walking in the street, all right, and you see a relative or you see one of your neighbors, and that person needs help, would you go and say, I will help you? Or would you go and say, I am going to help you? Which one is more accurate? Which one is correct? Well, honestly speaking, the first one is correct because you are just willing now, you are willing now to help. All right. It didn't happen to you that you were planning in your mind, well, today I'll be walking in the street, my neighbor would be walking, and I am going to help them. No, no one would imagine that much. It needs a lot of context around it, all right? And compare it to this next example. Imagine you are in the street again, and you're looking at the sky, and there are clouds gathering there, black clouds, and the weather is changing, and we all expect rain after this. So here in this case, we would say, because we have evidence, because we've seen this, we've seen the cloud gathering, we can say at this point that it is going to rain because I have evidence for that. It is going to rain. But in normal situations, in weather forecast, if I'm expecting what the weather would be tomorrow, I would say something like, it will rain tomorrow. But do I have solid evidence here? No. So please compare these examples until they make sense. All right. Finally, just one last thing about the future. The future is also expressed through the simple present tenses and progressive tenses, of course. This might sound strange for some, but actually, this is the reality. So we have the future expressed by using will plus the verb. We have the future expressed using be going to plus the verb, of course. And now we have two more structures. One of them is the simple present. If I say something like the train, look at the second example, please. The train leaves at 6 a.m. tomorrow. That means there is a schedule here. This word is very important in this situation. So if I have certain schedules set or meetings, I use these two scenarios. The train leaves at 6 a.m. tomorrow. That means there is a certain schedule for trains. One of them leaves at 6, let's say, the other leaves at 6:30, the other at 7. So there is a certain pattern. The train that I want to use is this one, the one that leaves at 6 a.m. tomorrow. So there is a schedule, a certain schedule for that. Also, look at the first sentence here. She is meeting a new client at 11 o'clock. That means also there is a certain schedule of meetings, and this guy, the new client, is going to meet us or going to meet her at 11 o'clock. All right. So only when you are sure that there's a schedule, use either of these two structures. All right. This is it for today. I hope the simple tenses are now clear to you. And I'll see you next time, inshallah, with more videos regarding verb tenses. Until we meet again, take care. Bye bye.